Well, hello, this is Jimmy the Hammer, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to be sharing my personal journey with Ozempic and my thoughts. I know a lot of you have probably heard a lot about Ozempic in relation to weight loss, but for me, I've been using it for different reasons. I was actually prescribed Ozempic for its potential cognitive benefits, not weight loss, and I wanted to share my experience with everyone. So this is an Ozempic pen, so let me explain. Studies have shown that GLP-1 medications, like Ozempic, can help with controlling cravings of all types of addictive behaviors. To clarify, GLP-1s are actually something that are created by our own bodies. They're similar to hormones. It isn't actually a drug. The reason why this is sold by a drug company, because for a long time they've been sold by compounding pharmacies, and you can get it in other methods, but this is an easy way to deliver it. It's because of the needle, and that's why they kind of call it a drug and they give it a name and all that wonderful stuff. But GLP-1s are made by our own gut, and they govern our cravings and things like that. For me, I was curious to see if taking it would help with my sugar cravings and my tendency to reach for processed. For me, I was curious to see if it would help with my tendency to reach for high carb foods. And this wasn't about losing weight for me. It's about testing whether I can gain control over a lot of my food choices. I have to say that it has worked in this regard. I found it is much easier to not care about sugary, carb-laden foods. It's honestly kind of interesting how little I feel like eating them. Instead, I'm naturally leaning more towards healthy food choices. It's kind of like I've regained my control over my craving. It is extremely fascinating to just not care about whether I eat a brownie or a muffin or anything like that. To be able to walk through South Station and know there's unhealthy food choices around and just not care. Whereas in other times, I would have been drawn to do that because I need it to make me feel better. And that's the point, is I'm using sugar, I'm using carbs, I'm using processed foods to make me feel better. And with Ozempic, with GLP-1s, it seems to deal with that. You just don't care. Not as hungry. I haven't had the side effects of being nauseous. And many times the reason people lose weight is as they ramp up the dose more and more, they become nauseous and don't want to eat. And that's why they lose weight. The GLP-1 doesn't actually make you lose weight. It just makes you stop eating. So there's that. Now, this is my Oura Ring, but of course, no experience is without its challenges. And for me, the biggest downside has been sleep. I've been struggling mightily with sleep the last couple of years. And when I first tried Ozempic, I noticed it became much harder to fall asleep. It seemed like I would say, it's the first time in my life I've had insomnia. It's harder to fall asleep. It's harder to stay asleep. I keep waking up, and my quality of sleep just isn't there. So one of the things that the Oura Ring tracks, and I will show this on screen, the Oura Ring app. And I wear an Oura Ring, in which tracks things like your sleep patterns, your resilience, and your resilience score is based on things like your resting heart rate during sleep. Before I started Ozempic, my resting heart rate was around 59 to 60 beats per minute on average. But when I started the medication, after about 3 or 4 days, it jumped up to 63 to 64 beats per minute. As a result, my resilience score has plummeted. And you can see this reflected in my app data. You can actually see these changes from when I started Ozempic for the first time and then when I stopped taking it and how my body started to recover. And I will show all this. So I started taking Ozempic, according to the thing, because you're supposed to write it down. I started taking Ozempic on November 11th. So I can show you clearly how my resilience score has steadily gone down from November 11th to the absolute bottom worst it can be, which was distressing because I could keep my resilience score pretty much up in the solid range all the time. Even though my sleep isn't the greatest, I can keep my resilience up fairly well. But there was another more concerning issue that I faced, my mental health. I've struggled, as I've talked about on this channel, I have struggled with racing thoughts and at times very intrusive thoughts about self-harm. But during my first round with Ozempic, these thoughts became much more frequent, as in every day, much more intense. I really had to stop and think about whether the benefits of the medication were really worth the toll it was taking on me mentally. As they say, was the juice worth the squeeze? For me, this made the decision to stop Ozempic way easier. I decided that the benefits just weren't worth the negative effects I was feeling. The sleep issues, the elevated heart rate, and especially the mental health struggles. After coming off of Ozempic, I noticed my resilience score improved, went back up into solid, and my mental clarity returned. Now, my desire for the addictive stuff, the desire for sugar, all those things, that came back too. Have I gained any weight? No, I've been about the same. My weight has maintained. That isn't the issue. So again, I am not using Ozempic for its weight loss benefit. If I upped the dose, I am sure that I would start losing weight, because after the third dose of Ozempic, even at the lowest dose, I did notice that at times I got a little queasy after I ate, and I really didn't want to eat. So there is that. I know that if I up my dose, I absolutely would lose weight. However, shortly after stopping Ozempic, during the whole time that I was taking Ozempic, I was also dealing with a personal issue, and I couldn't help but wonder if the sleep problems were more tied to the personal struggles than with Ozempic itself. So I decided to give Ozempic another try, and one could say I'm basically on it again right now. I wanted to see if the sleep disturbances were due to the medication or just a coincidence. So now that I've started taking the medication again, what have I found? Well, my sleep doesn't seem quite as bad this time around, which is a relief. However, I've noticed my resilience score has done the same thing that it did when I started taking Ozempic the first time. The score with the Oura Ring has started to decline. And while I haven't gone into the lowest setting and I have kind of leveled off, I did notice that my resting heart rate has increased again, just like it did with my first round of Ozempic. Now, while my sleep seems a bit better or the same, I've been sleeping a little bit longer, the heart rate and resilience changes are still happening, just like before. That's something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. The thoughts of self-harm? No, not there. That was probably a combination between the personal issue that was going on and the Ozempic at the same time. So what does this mean for you? Are you thinking about taking Ozempic? You think, oh man, I don't want insomnia. I am quite honestly the first person that I've heard of, or anyone has heard of, that had gotten insomnia because of Ozempic. I just wanted to share the insights that I've had with my journey with Ozempic. These effects that I've experienced, like the changes in sleep, heart rate, and mental health, are not something that's happening for everyone, but they definitely have been part of my experience. I think it's really important to be open about our personal experiences with medications, because it's not the same for everyone. Every person is their own individual. Every one of us needs to do their own N of one experiment. It doesn't matter whether it works for 99% of the people. You can be the 1% that it doesn't work for. It's hard to say. If you're thinking about trying Ozempic for weight loss, absolutely. If your doctor is encouraging it, I encourage you to look into it. Again, it is something that our own body produces. So it isn't a drug. You don't have to be worried about it. You can be worried about taking too much of it, because that can cause side effects that are unpleasant. But otherwise, I encourage you to speak with your doctor and track how your own body responds. I hope this video has been helpful and interesting to you, and at least give you a little bit more perspective on what it's like using Ozempic. If you've had any similar experiences, or you're curious about anything else, you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for future updates, and thanks for watching. This is Jimmy the Hammer, out.